I'm Cheree Ramirez with Children's Services Council of Martin County. I am at the Florida Podcast.Studio in Stuart, Florida. Thank you, Eddie Arguelles, for hosting and letting us be able to utilize your studio. We are here doing another Community Unity vlog, and I have Sharon LaRue with me.
Hello.
From 211 Palm Beach and Treasure Coast.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, you are the president and the CEO, correct?
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about yourself. What I'm wanting to know is who you are as the leader of 211 Palm Beach and Treasure Coast. I'm just going to start saying 211.
Great. Yes.
Now that we're going. But tell me a little bit about yourself.
So, wow, this could take a long time. So you're going to have to cut me off. I have done sort of social work, health and human services, nonprofit work most of my career. I got involved with 211 because, like so many people, doing some kind of community work. Sadly, a lot of people haven't heard of us, which is why I'm so grateful to be able to do opportunities for outreach like this. So I was part of a community group trying to do some service, and someone thought we should do a directory. And so we embarked a little bit on that, not very far, but we were exploring the idea. And someone else on the committee said, doesn't 211 do that already? This is quite some time ago. And I'll admit I wasn't familiar with it either. So I learned a little bit about it. I called 211, and one of the outreach people who I'm grateful is still with us, actually, called me back, delivered a ton of materials about resources, showed us how to get the information online, was incredibly helpful. Just anything that we were thinking that we needed, it was already at our fingertips. And I was so impressed. I got involved with the organization. I ended up on the board of directors for several years. And then when that my predecessor started looking at retirement, she asked me to put my hat in for consideration, and I was hired. So I've been in this role now for about 6 years.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So you had the idea before you even knew
Right.
211 was
Right.
in existence.
Right.
So that's pretty neat that now you are now in charge of that and wanting to share that with people so that they know that the resource is there.
Well, exactly. I just felt like what's important is that people in need have the information for services at their fingertips, and the information is changing all of the time. And so we wanted to create that for the small community that we were in, and when we learned that it already existed, I had the same thought that so many people had, which is, why does not every single person know? Why doesn't everyone know? And it's, of course, because nonprofits like ours don't have advertising budgets, just like Eddie mentioned on the way up. We don't have the funding for that.
Correct. So that's one of the reasons why we're
Yeah,
here.
perfect.
And where I came from in this position and being able to get to this position, to be able to help with the transparency and to be able to be a resource. Not many people know who Children's Services Council is.
Right.
People think that we're a nonprofit ourselves. They don't realize that we receive ad valorem taxpayer dollars, and we take those and we reinvest them back into our community to focus on children and families. So, getting back to that, you're a funded program through CSC, and thank you, Martin County taxpayers, for supporting 211. Even if you didn't know it, now you do.
That's right. Martin County taxpayers, CSC, yes, that allows us to keep someone answering those phones so that any time of the day or night, 24/7, people in need or in crisis can call us and get someone that cares about you, that knows about the services, that can look in our resource directory, as we talked about, which is continually updated, and just listen to your situation and figure out what you need. And if people aren't aware, we also are the suicide prevention lifeline. So it's the helpline, but it's also the crisis hotline, and the team is trained to do either.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And that's definitely needed, especially with everything that's been happening in the world.
Right.
And how mental health has been a hot topic lately.
Sure.
And not just for adults, but it's affecting our children.
It is.
And a lot of the children through middle school and high school have been affected. And it's sad to see some of those numbers, actually.
It's very sad. Even before the pandemic, and we'll talk about some sad stuff, but then we'll move quickly into some positive stuff, right? But even before the pandemic, the numbers nationwide on suicidal thoughts and suicidal deaths were going way up. We were at the trend in the last 15 years saw increases in almost every area and almost every age group, including younger children, so 10 and younger. So this is a big worry, but this is one of the reasons that CSC invests in services like ours, and one of the reasons I want every single person in Martin County, every single child, every single adult, just like 911, I want you to know you can call, text, or chat with 211 anytime, whether that's because you're worried because your child, you're worried they're not developing on track, or because you're actively having a crisis or even feeling like you don't want to go on. Someone in the world, one of your neighbors is here nearby that is going to connect with you and help you through that dark time.
And that's the most beautiful thing, and thank you so much for saying that, because that basically just went through your mission statement for me. So with that, you're under our funding priority, Sharon, nurturing families, and like you just said it all.
Yeah.
So thank you. You're there not only for the adults, but you're there for the children and anybody in crisis. Exactly. So that's something that I didn't know when I was going through a situation where I needed assistance, and that's part of the whole mission that I have. Every house, every neighborhood, every person, I want them to know about the programs available to them in Martin County. We're focused on Martin County, but you are in Palm Beach and all throughout the Treasure Coast.
Exactly. It's a 5-county area: Palm Beach, Martin, St. Lucie, Okeechobee, and Indian River. And what we're trying to do, 211 is a phone number designated by the FCC, just like 911. And if you call 911, you don't get a national dispatch center, right? You don't get a national police department. The number's routed to your local department. So that's the way it works here. You call 211 nationally, you're routed to the local 211. They're handled differently all over the country. Some places it's a much larger entity. It's a state. So Virginia, it's a statewide. What we're trying to do in Florida is balance being efficient with taxpayer dollars, right? So that you get the best investment for your $1, which means efficiencies of scale. It means regionalizing. It means one center with phones and technology and accreditation. So we want to do that, but at the same time, most of us are very reluctant to go really big, statewide, national, because we believe in local, and we believe we want to keep it. We want to stay local enough that I can come here and sit down with you, Cheree. We can look face to face. I can talk to Martin County individuals or Martin County partners and say, what do you want to see? What do you like? What do you not like? We can customize things together and really build the services that the community most wants.
Not every community is built the same.
Right.
So that's perfect. And, with an overview of just knowing the needs for children locally, what are some of the highest calls what are the problems or the issues that you're seeing from a local standpoint?
Sure. There are so many things so many different needs, and every family and individual's needs are so unique. But some of the trends that we are seeing, one of the big ones is housing. So people are worried about housing, and the cost of housing is exploding. It's a really major concern, and that is driving up concerns about homelessness. So that's a concern. But with the cost of housing, that overflows, right? So if your cost of rent is up or your mortgage is up, then it's harder for you to make ends meet. It's harder for you to pay your light bill. It's harder for you to keep food on the table. That is going to increase stress in the family. So the single biggest call type that we hear from in Martin County is the quadrant. I have a little pie chart, which our radio listeners can't see, but is mental health and addiction services. So mental health would be the number one, but if we lumped all of the basic needs together, housing, food, utilities, that would probably vie with, the mental health challenges, because there are so many different basic needs that people are struggling with.
So how would one get on your referral list to be able to, as an organization, to be able to help these families?
Yeah, it's very easy to do. We are accredited, and so we do have a vetting process. And so I can share with you that you can put on your website the contact person. So we have a staff person who's dedicated to that. But if you don't know, you could just call 211. You can just email us, text us, and get connected to our person who will evaluate your service and then get you in our system. And it's usually pretty quick.
So would that be Chad here?
Well, it could be. So for people local, if you know Chad, you can talk to Chad. The person who, he handles our outreach here in this area, but the person who handles our resource director, her name is Judy. Okay. And so, she's back at headquarters and we don't let Judy out much because she's very busy keeping all the resources in the database. But any of us would be happy to connect you, with an email to her and get you hooked up in the system.
So your services range from being able to connect them with like a Family Promise or a House of Hope.
Exactly.
Or Project Lift.
Salvation Army.
Yes. Okay, great.
All of those. Aging and Disability Resource Center, all of the different services. We've got them all.
From 0 to...
Yeah, we have...
100.
We have, well, sometimes I make people do a pop quiz. I say, how many agencies do you think are in there? It is over 1,600 agencies in the resource directory. Wow. And most agencies have multiple services. So it represents literally thousands of services. The challenge is that you and I were just talking about grant funding and the way that works. Many of our partners are funded with philanthropy or grants, and so what happens is services all have eligibility criteria. Mm-hmm. So although there are a lot of services, sometimes there are still gaps. So I say sometimes I tease that there are tons of services if you have purple hair on Tuesday between 2 and 3, right? So it's very difficult for the average person, especially someone struggling, to navigate all that. Mm-hmm. Again, part of why we're here to do it. And when one program loses funding and stops being able to provide a service, we update that. And then when another program kind of maybe fills in the gap that now they see, we add that in. So the services are constantly changing, and we have the most recent information for our callers.
So I would have loved to know about this resource when I was going through my things that I had to go through.
Wish you did. And I hear that so often.
But now, let's get this out there.
Absolutely.
And let's share. So you've already said, you're in 5 different counties. We're focusing on Martin County right now. So what are the basic ages that you receive phone calls? Do you receive calls from children?
We do. We do receive some calls from children. And interestingly, when thinking about demographics, which you and I were talking about before, the demographics are changing a little bit with regard to how people want to get in touch. So most adults still want to call and think of calling, especially adults, say 50 or older, 60 or older. But for younger people, so even I would say teens through probably 30s, really prefer texting, right?
So how do they get a hold of you through text?
You can text us. Text your zip code. If you've never texted us before, it'll ask for your zip code first. But text 898-211. And our 898-211. And if you look on your phone, the 898 spells out the letters TXT. So it's text 211, TXT 898-211. 211. That's right. And you can go to our website and you can click the button Find Help Now, and it'll talk to you a little bit about the different things. You can go online and find services yourself if you want to. You can call and you can text or you can chat with us. So if you're sitting at your computer, the teens prefer to text on their phone. If you're a little bit older than that, sort of a adulthood age, if you're my age, you prefer to sit at the computer and type, right? So if you want to do that, you can click chat and chat with us in real time.
So what's your website?
It is 211treasurecoast.org. Thanks for asking. I had that in my notes to say.
Of course. I will ask to be able to let everyone know how to get a hold of you.
Exactly.
So we just had Tropical Storm Nicole.
We did.
Sometimes we have bigger storms. Everybody has storms in their life.
Yes.
This one was a literal one.
Yes. Yes.
And either way, we could call you.
Yes,
211.
absolutely.
Storms in your life, you call 211.
Exactly. That's actually part of our vision statement, is that we envision a world where people in crisis will receive the information and services they need to weather life's storms. That's our vision.
Well, look at that. And I did not know that.
Yep.
You were on the same
I was on the same wavelength, but you had resources available for anybody who was looking for safe space to go if they had to evacuate.
Yes.
Resources for food.
Yeah, let me tell you about literal storms, hurricanes. So since we're in this area and we are prone to hurricanes and obviously it's stressful, life-threatening, what we do is in our regular resource directory, those are ongoing services. When a storm threatens, a lot of the services are short-term, temporary, and they're often fast. After a storm, it might be you can get ice at the corner of this place and that place. The county will open a distribution site, between these few hours. So what we do is we have a whole disaster plan, and we encourage our community to email information and services to us. You can get that on our website too, but it's 211. I have to think if I remember it. It's disaster@211pbtc.org. So you can email us to our disaster email. We will vet that information. We'll share it with our team who's answering the phone, but we will also put it on our website. So we create a landing page just for hurricanes, just for disasters. And you can click on the button for your county, and you can get county-specific information. And we put a little tickler at the top to let you know when it was last updated. So when things are moving really fast and information changes quickly, we update that site 3 times a day.
Wow.
7 days a week. As things slow down a little bit, it might be twice a day, and then it might go to once a day, and then we'll wean down. But we have a team of staff that we assign to that project during storms, and they are responsible for keeping that up basically around the clock.
Because you're 24/7.
24/7.
365. You guys don't need a break.
Exactly.
No,
I have fun sometimes teasing with new staff who ask me these questions. Are we closed for New Year's? No. Are we closed for Labor Day? No. We are never closed. So, of course, people get holidays and breaks. The downside is that we do have people working on Christmas. The upside is that our team gets a lot of flexibility, so they kind of get to schedule their holidays when they would like to have those holidays. So.
Well, that's an extra button. The flexibility makes it work.
Exactly. The flexibility makes it work.
So I wanted to ask you, how many calls per month would you say that Martin County has for 211?
We are getting, I just looked at last year's data before meeting with you, and we had in the ballpark of 4,500 for the year in 2021. So that averages out to about 380 a month.
Wow.
So yeah, it's not a small number. I mean, it's a lot of people reaching out every day. And that is only the number of people that identified themselves as a Martin County resident. So that means they gave us their zip code. Okay. So if you're in crisis and you say you're overwhelmed and you don't know what to do, and we start talking and we're working on de-escalating, but you're not ready to do what we would call problem solving, you just need reassurance and you need someone to help you calm down a little bit, we will not interrupt your crisis to say, hey, what's your date of birth and what's your zip code, right? So we don't get that on every single caller. So really the number calling from Martin is no doubt much higher, but the ones who identified were 4,500 last year.
So who are some of your partnerships within the Martin County community that give your information out?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure if you're asking that share information about 211 or provide services, but in a lot of cases it's the same. They both do both.
kind of, but I was asking, like, do you have any, like, Martin County School District,
Yes.
Sheriff's Office, that sort of thing?
All of the above. So county government, you guys, CSC, schools, Sheriff's Office, all of those we partner with, and they do share information about 211.
So do you give the information through, like, flyers at school that go home to parents? Do you have things that if somebody were taken in to the sheriff's office and they were given information upon their release, would they have access?
Yeah.
How does that work?
Well, each partner does it differently. So we have historically done a lot of little 211 cards that at one time we had for the sheriff's office. Now some of our law enforcement partners have told us that information, a lot of our law enforcement partners, like all of us, use different technology now. So sometimes instead of having it in a physical copy, people prefer an electronic copy, and they share that with their staff, and then they have their staff use that kind of tool. So we are open to whatever our partner asks for. On one hand, the other piece of that, of course, is that unfortunately printed material is really expensive.
Yes.
So I personally, Sharon LaRue, would like to wallpaper, all of our partners with 211 information so that everyone would see it everywhere. But again, we don't have a budget for that. So we just talk to our partners about what makes sense. Sometimes we'll give a partner an electronic copy and say, can you print and distribute this?
So actually, I did put you on our annual report.
Great.
And our program guide with the QR code.
Great. Cool.
To scan, to go to your website, and to be able to chat with you online.
That's fun.
But that we think it's very important because you're a great resource.
Thank you.
To many different people in our county who need your services. And so I was like, I don't know why this is.
Why isn't it everywhere? Me
too. It's the same thing that when I came into CSC. That's when I first found out about you, and I was like, what?
Right. Well, we'll deputize you a 211 ambassador, and everyone listening. Often when I have speaking engagements, I will say this. People ask that, and I will often conclude by saying, so I'll say to the audience here, now that you know you're a 211 ambassador, and it's your job to go out and tell at least 10 more people.
Really, I mean, that's how it spreads.
Exactly.
It starts with one person, that person tells another person, and that person tells 2 more people. And in order for us to really make an impact and for us to really make a difference right here in our own backyard, where we live, where we go to school, where we work, where we play, we need to be able to come together. And that's why it's community unity.
Exactly.
That's why it's so important to be able to know what's available for our resources, for when our friends talking to us about something that is scary for them and what they're going through with their home situation or with their spouse or something that their child's going through. We want to be able to give them a resource to be able to utilize so that they don't feel alone.
Exactly. Well, and that brings up a number of really good points. And one question I get all the time is, if I know someone in trouble or I'm worried about someone, how can I help? And so there are a few answers to that, but of course, always in my mind, the simplest. So if you want someone to take some action, research suggests the simplest strategy is the best, just one instruction. So that's why I would love all of our friends listening, all of our business partners. If you have a hair salon, right? If you are a doctor's office, if you're a dentist office, a lot of times you as a professional are very likely to hear things, and then you feel you want to help and you may feel lost. So the best, simplest, most effective, most helpful thing is to get that person someplace that can help them and get them on the right track. So if you just say, and people feel uncomfortable sometimes handing off in a way like they should do it themselves, but you don't know. You're not trained. You don't know those services. So if you say, I would love to get you the support you need. I know that have you tried calling? Did you know that you can dial 24/7 this number and it's free? And I've talked to the people there and they're really nice and they care. Give them a try and see what maybe they can do for you. And if you had the material, available, it would be super helpful. And I want to say one other thing about that. So everyone can do that. But additionally, if you're really worried about someone that they may be thinking about taking their own life, if you're worried they won't call, you can call us and we'll call them on your behalf, either anonymously or with your name. Like if I had your permission, I could call your friend Cheree if you were worried about someone and say, our team, call your friend and say, we are calling just to check in because your friend Cheree was really worried about you. How are you doing? And the conversation begins just that simply. How are you doing?
Right.
I'm just gonna. Sorry, I get very okay. So
well, and I'm glad it's touching because we feel that way too. And often I'll tell little stories and I'll get a little choked up. And I've been doing this for a long time, but it shows that. See, I will get a little choked up. It shows that the work that we're doing is so impactful and so meaningful, and that when people are in those tough moments, it's both sad but also very encouraging to know that there are people there to help.
And care.
And care.
And that will just be there to listen when they feel so unheard.
Exactly.
And alone in that place wherever they are.
Exactly. And that's something that we sadly often hear when someone's really depressed is that no one cares about me. It's something that people say to us every single day. And gratefully, our team is able to say right in that moment, I care about you. I'm here for you. I'm listening to you.
And that's why you do it.
Yes, that's why we do it.
That's why you guys do it. And that is really what I was wanting to get to, is like that feeling and that emotion of your mission, but your personal mission of your why.
Right. Well, I do very much believe, I believe that we each have a responsibility to do good, to make an effort to leave the world better than where we found it, and that's what drives me.
I love it. I love it. And this has been such a pleasure getting to know you, Sharon, and meeting you for the first time.
Yes.
And, I wish that I had learned about 2-on-1 prior, not only for myself, but to have been able to give this information out to so many of my friends who have gone through different things and circumstances. Now I know.
Now you know.
And now I am a 2-on-1 ambassador.
That's right. And it was such a pleasure to meet you too. Thank you so much for this opportunity to spread the word about our work and how we can help.
Of course. And thank you again to everyone here who is viewing this podcast, this vlog, this series. We are just so grateful to be able to come together in community unity for one common goal, and it's to help our children and our families become successful and to reach their full potential in any aspect of their life. So, really, thank you again, Sharon.
Thank you so much.
Have a great day, guys.
Bye.